Step down slow. Hey, with this deputy right here, okay?
That's Rodney Hinton Jr. on his way to court to answer to charges that he ran his car into a sheriff's deputy hours after meeting with police to view body camera footage of an officer shooting his son a day earlier. What does the body-worn camera video reveal? I take a look at the new footage just released.
You know, just like I know that what we're about to walk through isn't the whole story. The files they released are a breadcrumb trail, designed to make you feel a certain way, to paint a picture of a monster and a martyr so clean that you never stop to ask the ugly questions. We all knew this was coming. The moment the elite media machine fired up, you could feel it in your gut. That familiar sickening feeling that they were about to lock a narrative in place before the dirt could settle. And right now, an Ohio man is sitting in a cage.
Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Body camera footage of Rodney Hinton Jr. has just been released. It shows him in the hours after he's accused of intentionally hitting and killing a sheriff's deputy in his car in Cincinnati. Hinton is charged with aggravated murder in the death of Deputy Larry Henderson. Aggravated murder is the most serious murder charge a person can face in the state of Ohio, and it's possible that prosecutors could pursue the death penalty against Rodney Hinton. Police say Hinton intentionally drove his car into Deputy Henderson in Cincinnati on Friday, May 2nd, just outside of the University of Cincinnati. Henderson was a retired sheriff's deputy.
Facing the ultimate punishment, while the people who lit the fuse on this entire nightmare are scrubbing their own hands and calling it justice. But the real expose isn't just about a car hitting a deputy. It's about what happens to a father's mind when the state shows you something so dark, so ritualistic in its coldness, that your soul fractures on the spot. We need to talk about the meeting. That's the wound. That's where the emotional clock starts ticking, and they don't want you to focus on it. Hours before Rodney Hinton Jr. got behind the wheel of that car, he was sitting in a room with the chief of police and city officials. They weren't just giving him condolences. They were showing him a snuff film of his own bloodline. They sat him down and played the camera footage of his 18-year-old son, Ryan Hinton, being gunned down by an officer.
Sheriff's deputy who was working a detail directing traffic for the university's graduation ceremony when police said Hinton drove into him as Henderson stood on the sidewalk wearing his uniform and a bright vest. Police in Cincinnati say a short time before this happened, Rodney Hinton Jr. left a meeting with Cincinnati police where the chief and other city officials had shown him and his family body camera video of his son, 18-year-old Ryan Hinton, being shot by a police officer the day before.
This is the other officer, the one who fires the shot. This is his body camera as he approaches the scene.
Imagine the psychological engineering of that moment. Just take that in. You are a father. You are not a criminal mastermind. You are a working man, a believer, someone who probably taught your boy right from wrong. And the very institution that just erased your son calls you in, not for transparency, but for a display of power. They show you your child's final seconds. They stop the tape right before the trigger pull, savoring the control. Rodney walked into that room a grieving parent. He walked out a man who had looked
Jr. on his way to court to answer to charges that he ran his car into a sheriff's deputy hours after meeting with police to view body camera footage of an officer shooting his son a day earlier. What does the body-worn camera video reveal? I take a look at the new footage just released. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Body
into the abyss of institutional evil. Was he understandably upset, as the official reports say? Or was he deliberately pushed over the edge? You have to ask yourself, if you were in a room full of armed agents of the state, watching your son die while they blocked you from seeing it all, would your mind stay intact? Or would the wiring of your soul get fried by a rage so holy it scares the demons themselves? Now, let's talk about the man they say Rodney killed, Deputy Larry Henderson. By all accounts, a legend on the force. A 33-year veteran, a man who retired in December but just couldn't stay off the front line. A man whose badge number, 129, was immediately retired in a ceremony of public grief. The sheriff called him bravery extraordinaire, a sacrificial lamb in a bright vest directing traffic at a university graduation. It's a beautiful image. It's so clean. It's so perfect that it should make you shiver. Because we all know that in these ritualistic tragedies, the symbol always matters more than the messy truth. Deputy Henderson was not just a traffic cop. He was a physical representation of the very department that was locked in a death spiral with Hinton's family. They say Rodney targeted him. They say the reconstruction proves he accelerated, crossed the center line, aimed straight for the utility pole and the man in uniform. I'm not here to say a car didn't strike a man, because it did, and a life is gone, and that's a weight that sinks the stomach. But I am asking you to follow the breadcrumb of timing. This wasn't a random attack in a vacuum. The accident reconstructionist says there were no skid marks.
Batavia. You ever lift this foot up so I can feel the bottom of your foot? And your right foot? Okay. We're going to escort you over to the county. You having trouble walking? Go ahead, boys. We're going to start taking these restraints off of you. When we do, I'll have you put your hands up on the counter, okay?
Alright, I need you to lift your left foot up a little bit so I can get this shackle off you. Alright, feeling good, right?
None. A man driving with zero hesitation.
Here, leave his hands still for a second. Hands up, please.
Yeah.
The next morning, Saturday, May 3rd, deputies took Rodney Hinton to court to answer to the aggravated murder charge.
Yeah.
Do your hands for me?
That is the textbook definition of a suicide mission.
He's drag one on this side.
Let's place that hand up there.
Here, leave his.
Or a psychotic break. Yet they want to treat it as a cold, calculated, aggravated murder worthy of the death penalty. If his mind was gone, if the meeting with the police chief shattered his mental condition, then calling it intentional without acknowledging that the state broke him first isn't justice. It's a cover-up. The The footage of Rodney in the holding cell and the Sally port is where the elite system truly exposes its fangs. Watch it, not as a spectator, but as someone who sees through the procedural theater. He's in a hospital gown. He's confused. When they tell him to stand, his voice cracks. "Nobody let me in." When they cuff him, he's mumbling, "I'm scared though." They tell him to chill. They handle him like a piece of meat, all while displaying that sickeningly polite professionalism that detectives use right before they bury you. "You good? Watch your head. I got your back." Sweet words dripping with poison.
You know, this is not working, so. But, you know, about. Second. You're good. No, I was looking at you.
They are strapping him down, shackling his ankles, double, locking the cuffs, and he's barely conscious. He asks, "Do your hands burn?" That's not the question of a hardened killer. That's the fractured mumbling of a man in a chemical or trauma-induced fog. This is the evidence they don't headline. This is the video they release hoping you'll just see an uncooperative suspect, when in reality, we're watching a man in the middle of a severe mental health episode, a man who had been chemically sedated or emotionally obliterated just hours earlier. They ask him the jail intake questions. Serious medical or mental health issue. He tries to answer. He can barely speak. Then they march him into Claremont County, where he doesn't even know where he is. Batavia. He's lost in a labyrinth of steel and concrete. This is the state's justice. Blackballing a grieving father from reality itself. But here is where the narrative reframes. We have to look at Rodney Hinton Jr., not as the demon the media wants you to fear, but as an unlikely, tragic hero who refused to stay silent in a world where they shoot your son and hold a press conference before his body is cold. Mouthing off to the system becomes a virtue. When they led him out of that courtroom, surrounded by a wall of deputies, colleagues of Henderson engaging in a blatant show of force that would never be allowed in a civilian trial, Rodney muttered something.
The deputies then load Hinton into the van for the trip to the jail in that neighboring county. It's Claremont County.
All right, the easiest way is just turn around and slide in.
The FO president claims he said,
I got this right.
Yeah.
the deputy was going to be gone forever. The audio is muddy, the context is chaotic, but let's assume for a moment that a shattered, suicidal man did say something aggressive. Why did the deputies line the walls? Was that security? Or was that a psychological sacrifice ritual to provoke him into saying something they could leak to the press. This is a man who just discovered the state can execute his child on the street and suffer zero consequences. And when he destroys himself in response, they line up like a firing squad to watch him walk to his cage. Rodney Hinton Jr. is the mirror reflecting their own demonic violence back at them, and they cannot stand the sight of it. His defiance, no matter how broken, is a form of standing against the machine. It's not pretty, it's not polite, but true heroism in a godless machine never is. And this is where the everything makes sense. Now moment hits you like a freight train. Remember the core sequence. The son, Ryan Hinton, is in a stolen vehicle. He runs with a gun. The officer fires. Dead at 18. The very next day, the father is forced to watch the killing. Within hours, a retired deputy who works for the sheriff's office, the exact parallel agency, is dead. The prosecutor, Connie Pillage, immediately jumps to the death penalty. Everything is accelerated. Everything is escalated. This isn't just a criminal case. This is a blood feud between a family and the armed bureaucracy that controls your streets. The real question that they don't want you to ask is this: what was on the rest of that body camera footage? What did the police chief really show the family in that closed-door meeting? If the shooting of Ryan was a clean, justified act of law enforcement, why would viewing it turn a man into a human missile within hours? The math doesn't work. Normal grieving fathers do not instantly evolve into vehicular assassins. Something was shown to him. Something was said. A mockery of the dead, a smirk on a video frame, a demonic lack of remorse caught on tape. Or perhaps the sheer coldness of the systems. Foops. Attitude toward killing a teenager shattered his faith in justice entirely. The powerful protect their own. They retire badge 129. They hold press conferences where they weep for the deputy. But where is the weeping for the dead 18-year-old? Where is the retired badge for the kid shot down running? He's nothing to them. He's just a file to be closed. Rodney realized that in that room. He realized that the badge protects the elite, and the only justice left is the dark justice of a father's final scream. Now, I want you to sit with the weight of that ceremonial courtroom. The detective testifying about the lack of skid marks. The attorney arguing about his mental condition.
All right. Let's go back this way, sir.
I got one of these.
Turn around to the back of the van for me, please. You have to watch yourself getting up there and keep your head down so that you don't end up popping it on the top of the van, okay?
The judge sustaining objections, keeping the machinery of death rolling smoothly. This is the finale that offers no resolution, only the burning anger of open injustice. They are going to put this man to death.
On the top of the van, okay? And I'll seatbelt you in once we get you in. Just take your time. I got your back in for balance. I got your back. Watch your head. You have a seat there for me? You good? Watch yourself. Do me a favor.
Not just for killing a deputy, but for humiliating the institution. They are going to erase the Hinton bloodline, father and son, and call it a victory for public safety. The state of Ohio has admitted that Rodney was in a state of mental collapse, that the catalyst was their own bullet, and their response is to put him on the table and inject poison into his veins. It's ritualistic. It's satanic in its inversion of family and protection. They destroy a child. They mentally torture the father by forcing the movie of the murder upon him. And when the father's mind shatters and tragedy spirals, they strap him to a gurney and call it law and order. This is the world the mainstream media builds for you. A world where the FOP speaks for the dead cop, but no union speaks for the dead teenager. A world where, understandably upset, is used as a slur against a father who just lost everything. I'm left sitting here, not with answers, but with a rage that won't cool. We watched a man who couldn't even stand on his own, a man asking if his hands were burning, a man saying he was scared, get processed for the ultimate punishment. Where is the justice for Ryan Hinton? Where is the mental health evaluation for a man pushed into a psychotic break by the state's own psychological warfare? If you take a father, break his mind with the image of his dead child, and he lashes out in a blind, animalistic fever of grief, is that premeditated murder, or is it a predictable human reaction engineered by the very people who now want him dead? They don't want you to answer that, but I'm asking you anyway. Tell me in the comments what you would have done if they sat you in that chair and forced you to watch your child's final breath before locking you in a cage. What punishment fits the crime of a soul broken by the powerful? I need to see you say it, because if we don't speak, they'll just retire another badge and pretend the father never existed.